Welcome to Kuwait!
In this video, we will be discovering the small Middle Eastern country, and you'll learn about its people and culture all the way to the best places to visit.
And perhaps even more importantly, you'll get to see how a group of desert nomads have become some of the richest people on our planet. But some of you might know, money doesn't solve all of your problems. So let's start from the very beginning. Imagine a barren desert land at the edge of the world. A whole country without a single lake or a river where to quench your thirst. A place where mountains themselves are grinded to dust by the frequent sandstorms. For centuries, only the toughest humans could survive such hard conditions. Some of them developed almost superhuman abilities, free diving day after day up to 40 meters deep into the sea, in search of pearls to sell at the marketplace to feed their families. Others stuck to the ocean of sand, herding their animals through the desert, in hopes of finding food and water, making trade wherever possible. For years the people here lived in the toughest imaginable conditions. Yet as we now know, all of this was about to change, and it happened faster than anyone could have even dreamed. If you have ever heard about Kuwait before, then there's a huge chance that the first word that pops in your head is oil. When talking about this country, there's no way around it. That natural resource has made this place as it is today, and that's why we're gonna start our adventure here. In an exhibition dedicated to the resource that in the last 85 years has totally transformed Kuwait. Can we get 2 tickets, please? This country is barely half the size of Switzerland, 24 times smaller than the state of California.
Is this an oil toy?
Yet it has the 6th biggest oil reserves in the whole world, and nearly half of its economy relies on oil.
We thought this was a natural park. It's a natural, like a conservation area, but it just means that it's just oil area.
And they were also quite good at demonstrating it. "6,000 liters. This whole barrel next to me is the amount of oil that Kuwait produces each second of each day, every day. Well, of course, becoming one of the richest countries overnight does not come without problems. But before we talk more closely about what really troubled us about Kuwait, let's first see how oil has transformed this group of desert tribes into a world-known modern nation. Okay, the only thing is that the Kuwaiti city is huge, so getting to our next place is more than 30 kilometers, like 35 kilometers of driving. So let's jump in the car and head off. Kuwait is pretty much the largest country with 100% urbanization rate. Although the city itself is huge, then what makes it better, quicker, is that inner city highway speed limit is 120 kilometers. We found parking 500 meters away. Now we're heading for our destination. And as we walk the streets of the capital, Kuwait City, we started to notice small things that mostly could never exist in a desert. Wherever possible, they've just let the grass grow. We've had locals show us pictures of random weeds on the ground and say like, it's so beautiful. But I guess it just shows the culture, like they live in a desert, everything green, everything growing is super beautiful to them. Green grass, flowers blooming. They use green things like fake grass and water fountains in all shapes and sizes. Quite similarly to greenery, in many places of the city we've seen fountains and water, and in a way it's sort of weird because Kuwait is one of the few countries in the world that actually doesn't have freshwater sources. They don't have any rivers, any lakes, but probably due to the lack of water, they absolutely love seeing it. So that's why there's fountains, also like when it rains, people are outside and they're happy. It's a super weird concept for us as Europeans because we absolutely hate rain. I guess we all just want the things we can't have. Yet greenery was far from being the only thing that caught our attention. When it comes to the architecture, it's very, very unique in a sense that you have those low sand-colored buildings that you see in many other Arabic countries, but then they're sided with like the monstrosities, the huge skyscrapers made of glass.
This skyscraper has a pretty big hole in the middle of it.
That cannot be safe, can it? So it's a very huge contrast between what you see on eye level and what you see up there. The architecture in the city was truly different from anything we had seen before. Okay, here's the thing. I come from a village where the tallest building is about this high. So seeing those freaking Goliaths all around me is just a tiny bit intimidating. And after a bit of, let's say, window shopping, we decided to also visit one of those monsters. Okay, but what's inside of those monstrosities? Well, we'll go and have a look. And of course, if we're gonna see the insides, let's choose the tallest one. Alhamra, 412 meters.
Just a small town girl living in a big world.
Well, turns out getting into the tallest building in Kuwait was much harder than we anticipated.
Assalamu alaikum. So how can we get up the tower? This way? Okay.
We had to fill out forms, prove to them that we will represent their building respectfully on social media. And then we were put on hold. They said they will give us an answer in 30 minutes, 1 hour. A waiting list to get security clearance. We had just enough time to drink one family-sized coffee. And then the phone rang. Yes. Okay. Is it possible that we finish our coffee and then be there like 5-10 minutes? Thank you very much. Yeah, I was clearly quite excited. Hot. Let's go. Traveling 250 meters up in 20 seconds really stuffs up your ears. But the view was totally worth it. Pretty cool. Kuwaiti towers are there and we're clearly higher than those two. They're 187 meters high. I'm not gonna lie, never ever in my life before have I felt more like an influencer. Like, I thought we could come just up there and make few quick clips, but after filling out so much paperwork, we actually need to like make it look like that we're working and that we're promoting the place. So it's a tiny bit weird. Yeah, we really don't know how to be proper influencers. But to truly show respect to this building in our own special way, we decided to reenact a scene from one of the best movies ever made. 3, 4. You met me at a very strange time in my life. With your feet in the air and head on the ground, try this trick and spin it, yeah. Your head will collapse, cause there's nothing in it. And you ask yourself, where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind? To those interested, on the lower levels of the tower, you can find a shopping mall. You know, the regular kind, selling luxury cars and clothes worth more than my annual salary. Okay, spending a little bit more money on the public toilets, it's actually pretty nice. I've never seen toilets where all the water sensors actually work properly. Usually you go there and and it never gives you water. You have to wave there and...
Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, yes.
But do you want to go up there?
You mean the viewing deck?
Yeah.
Or we just came from there.
Okay. Which floor you went?
55.
No. Do you want to go to 70?
Yes.
Let me grab my coffee and I will come to you.
That would be amazing.
But for us, it was also the first interaction with true Kuwaiti locals.
Yeah. We'll be here.
Ha! Turns out all the paperwork and waiting was kind of useless. All you need is a local friend. This time we got to nearly 350 meters of height.
It's a little strange to say it, but 100 meters up didn't change anything. Still we're higher than all the other buildings, and just funny.
But before we talk more about locals that live here, who they are, what they do, and how only 1/3 of the people that live here can be called true locals, let's first check out one more absurdly luxurious place that our friend Hassan said every visitor must see.
Another 18-kilometer drive to a place that on a map looks very close.
Avenues is the second biggest shopping mall in the world. And well, it's gigantic.
Okay, here's the thing. We just asked the person where's the special place where we want to go, and he's like 15 minutes walking that way. 15 minutes more walking. It means more than a kilometer.
Come to the mall, they said. It will be fun, they said.
It feels like a multicultural town all by itself, with streets resembling places from all over the globe.
Coming from Europe, it's sort of hard to wrap our heads around this concept, but at the same time, if you think that summers have plus 50 degrees around here, so maybe it's nice to come to a store and feel like you're outside on the street.
But also able to continue living because you're not melting.
Quite interesting that this mall is the first place where we see a lot of people.
Thanks to very wealthy population, shopping, next to driving expensive cars in the desert, is a huge part of modern Kuwaiti culture. But I guess the biggest surprise to me was that the prices here were much smaller than I expected.
My mouth just kind of dropped because we checked the prices of smartphones, and compared to Europe, the one I like was 35% cheaper.
So like 500 euros cheaper.
500 euros cheaper.
You see, thanks to the oil revenue, this country has next to no taxes.
Well, that was not quite planned, but yeah.
Life of a shopping wife, or how do you call it when you wait for your man to try on clothes and then browse and then choose something after an hour?
I don't think there's too many women out there who know what it feels.
Exactly, really special.
All right, now that we've seen how this country transformed from a desert wasteland to modernistic urban metropolis, let's now look a bit deeper to see what has become of the culture and people of this land. And for this, let's head to the historic market.
We're slowly making our way to the market district of the city.
It's fairly quiet and there's not that many people, so you can actually walk. There's not like unwanted physical contact all over you, so it's a nice surprise.
It's quite easy to tell local Kuwaitis apart from the rest of the crowd.
When walking through the market, like one thing you quickly notice is that there's so many people who dress themselves in traditional clothes, and understanding those clothes is also understanding the culture and people of Kuwait.
The headdress, called keffiyeh, was essential to protect oneself from the sun, and during sandstorms it could also be used as a face mask. The thick black rope on the head, called agal, was often used as a whip to herd camels,
And of course, light-colored, airy robes are simply essential to help bear the heat of a desert sun. But more than just the clothes, also the faith has stayed practically unchanged.
Well, this is it, the Grand Mosque of Kuwait City.
The only place you have to cover your hair in this country.
Kuwait is a deeply Islamic country, but to us as outsiders, it felt like they're on the right path to find a beautiful balance between religious and secular life. For example, Islamic dress code is not enforced, and it was eye-opening to meet and talk to local women who are deeply religious yet have never worn a headscarf outside of a mosque. We experienced the world-famous Islamic hospitality in a form of invitations to dinner.
It tastes like dime chocolate, but in a melted form.
We were just walking on an empty street and we were stopped by a local gentleman who was like, come have tea with us. No. Yeah. Super nice. You can feel the Arabic kindness. That's why we like traveling Arabic countries. They're so open to visitors. It's part of their culture. And in all honesty, the Grand Mosque of Kuwait is likely the most beautiful and peaceful mosque we have ever seen.
Oh my, oh my, oh my.
I think it's one of the most beautiful mosques I've ever seen.
This place fits 10,000 worshippers at the same time. Echo that the big hall creates, it's just magical. Like the whole atmosphere in there is wow. Well, yes, the ban on alcohol that often goes together with Islamic faith might be annoying to some visitors, but instead of bars, this country has hundreds of coffee shops to choose from. If you look at the menu, the price of a coffee is $1.50, and it doesn't sound bad, right? But there's a catch.
Okay, so $1.50 for a coffee doesn't sound bad, but Kuwaiti dinar actually is the strongest currency in the world. So 30 dinars is $100. So you can do the math how much the coffee costs. I don't want to do the math.
So why Liisu didn't want to do the math is because she absolutely hates spending money. But for those who want to know, coffee costs $5, and it's the most common one. Like if you want a special one, $10-15 easily. Yet while walking through the clean and well-kept streets of the capital, we couldn't help but notice a weird little thing. Even though a lot of Kuwaiti locals like to dress in traditional clothing, then on the street you still see that they are like barely 1/3 of the people, maybe like quarter of the people on the streets. But there's also a very good reason for this. Out of the 4.5 million people that live in Kuwait, only 1.5 are local Kuwaitis. So they're literally minority in their own country. The situation happened as a result of becoming rich almost overnight. Suddenly, Kuwait needed hundreds of thousands of foreign workers to build all that infrastructure and to keep the oil running in the pipelines. At the moment, all the jobs, from service industry to other blue-collar work, is done by foreigners. And many Kuwaitis themselves enjoy a pretty relaxed life with a retirement age so low to make the rest of us feel a tiny bit jealous. Well, and now that you've seen the beauty and incredible changes that this country has gone through, it's time to also talk about the things that truly troubled us while being here. And to understand the first point, You should know that locals of this country absolutely love camping. Never ever have I seen something like this. The whole desert of Kuwait that we've seen so far, it's just built full of temporary housing. Caravans, tents, few smaller buildings. In the winter months, the whole deserts become cities of campgrounds. All of those lights over there are tents, like the whole desert lights up in the night. And since Kuwait City itself has tens of thousands of service workers cleaning the street each day, it is hardly noticeable there. But in the desert, there's no way around it. Yesterday night, a group of people came to camp in a desert next to our van, and this morning they have left behind this. It's hard for me to understand how a nation that so dearly loves their country can at the same time treat their land like a garbage bin. Just extremely sad. Like, you can't make one step without stepping on some sort of plastic. And the same neglect towards the environment came clear when looking at the capital from afar. On most days, this metropole is covered with thick hazy layer of polluted air. Per capita, Kuwait is the third biggest polluter in the world when it comes to CO2. And although the country has nearly endless amount of sunlight, then currently there's almost no renewable energy production. And if you don't feel like acting for the environment, then doing this for better air quality for your own people, or to save money on the numerous desalination plants that provide water for the whole nation, it just seems like a reasonable thing to do, to start taking advantage of the endless sunlight this country is given. In my opinion, being a modern country is about more than just fancy buildings. It is about understanding that our planet is like a big swimming pool. We're all in this together, and if somebody pees in one corner, everybody must pay the price. But luckily, neither of those things are irreversible. And as a traveler, I must say that Kuwait was truly interesting place to visit. It's not easy having to change everything about your lifestyle and culture in a matter of decades. But luckily, Kuwaitis have kept the most important part: their kindness towards other people. It's almost 10 o'clock in the evening, and a man from a desert camp next to us, Mr. Hussein, just came by with a big fancy car. He honked a few times and he brought us some Arabian sweets. He brought us a whole thermos full of coffee in the middle of the night, Arabic coffee, and a block of water. Just out of the blue. I thought something was wrong, somebody was honking. To Mr. Hussein.
To Mr. Hussein.
And to all the other kind people still out there in a wide world.